I want you to think about the house you live in right now. Specifically, I want you to think about the roof, the shape of it, the angle of it, the way it sits over your head every single day while your air conditioner runs and runs and runs through June, July, and August, and your cooling bill climbs to numbers that make you genuinely angry when the statement arrives. Now, I want you to consider something that most people have never been told. The shape of your roof is not neutral. It is not just an aesthetic decision made by a builder decades ago that has no bearing on what happens inside your house. The geometry of your roof directly determines how much heat enters your living space, how much work your air conditioner has to do, how much money leaves your bank account every single summer for the rest of the time you live there. And the roof shape that manages heat better than almost any design ever tested, a shape that keeps attic temperatures dramatically lower, that reduces cooling loads by 30 to 50% compared to standard modern construction, that was used successfully across the American South, across the Caribbean, across Southeast Asia for generations, was quietly abandoned in the 1950s. Not because it stopped working, not because something better replaced it, but because the construction industry found a cheaper, faster way to build, air conditioning became widely available, and nobody asked the question that should have been asked. If we make buildings that depend entirely on mechanical cooling to be livable, and then sell those people the air conditioning equipment, how much money does that make us indefinitely? The answer is a lot. And the roof shape I'm about to describe makes that equation significantly less profitable. Before I get into exactly what this roof is, why it works, and how the physics behind it are so well established that NASA uses the same principles in spacecraft thermal management, hit that like button and subscribe to Lost Tech Vault right now. This channel exists to find the technology, the design, the knowledge that was working perfectly and got quietly set aside because someone found a way to profit from the inferior replacement. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Every video here is a piece of a larger picture. The roof shape is called a hip roof with a raised center ridge, more specifically, the design principles that produced what historical builders called the double-pitched ventilated roof, or in its most refined form, the monitor roof, combined with deep overhangs and an air gap between the inner and outer roof surfaces. Let me describe what this looks like because it's important to visualize. A standard modern roof sits directly on top of the ceiling structure with minimal airspace between them. The roofing material, asphalt shingles in the vast majority of American homes, absorbs solar radiation all day. By mid-afternoon on a summer day, the surface of a dark asphalt shingle roof reaches 150 to 190 degrees Fahrenheit. That heat conducts through the roofing material into the attic space. A poorly ventilated attic on a hot summer afternoon reaches 130 to 150 degrees. That superheated air mass sits directly above your living space, radiating heat downward through your ceiling insulation all afternoon and into the evening. Your air conditioner is not just fighting the outdoor temperature, it is fighting a 140-degree oven sitting 12 inches above your head. The traditional ventilated roof design attacks this problem at every level simultaneously. First, deep overhangs. Historical southern and tropical architecture used roof overhangs of 3 to 6 feet on all sides. These overhangs accomplish something that no amount of insulation can replicate. They prevent direct solar radiation from ever striking the wall surfaces and windows in the first place. A 4-foot overhang on a south-facing wall at typical American latitudes blocks direct summer sun from hitting the wall entirely during the hottest part of the day, while still allowing lower-angle winter sun in when you want the heat. This is passive solar geometry. It costs nothing to operate. It requires no maintenance. And it was standard practice in vernacular architecture across every hot climate on Earth before the 1950s changed everything. Second, the AIR gap. Traditional roof construction in hot climates created a deliberate separation between the outer weatherproof roof surface and the inner ceiling structure. This air gap, sometimes just 8 to 12 inches, sometimes several feet in more elaborate designs, creates a thermal buffer zone. Heat conducts through the outer roof surface and enters the air gap, but it never directly contacts the ceiling below. Instead, that hot air needs to be moved out before it can transfer further downward, which is where the ridge design becomes critical. A monitor roof, the most refined version of this approach, features a raised central section along the roof ridge with operable vents or louvers on all sides. Hot air rising through the air gap exits continuously through these high vents by pure convection. No fan, no electricity, no mechanical system, just physics. Hot air rises, the ridge vent gives it somewhere to go. Cooler air is continuously drawn in at the lower roof edges, moves upward through the air gap, picks up heat from the roof surface and exits at the ridge, carrying that heat out of the building entirely before it ever reaches the living space below. This is called a thermosyphon effect. And in a well-designed monitor roof with proper overhangs and air gap dimensions, it reduces the heat load entering the living space from the roof by 60 to 70% compared to a standard sealed attic construction on a hot summer day. The numbers from research validate this completely. Studies comparing traditional ventilated roof assemblies with deep overhangs against standard modern construction in hot climates consistently show attic temperature reductions of 20 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit under peak conditions. That temperature reduction translates directly into reduced cooling load. Reduced cooling load means your air conditioner runs fewer hours. Fewer hours means lower electricity consumption. Lower electricity consumption means a bill that looks fundamentally different from your neighbors with identical square footage and a standard modern roof. The 30 to 50% cooling load reduction figure is not theoretical. It comes from field measurements of buildings using these principles versus matched buildings with standard construction. Researchers at the Florida Solar Energy Center have documented these results repeatedly. The buildings that perform best are not the ones with the thickest insulation or the highest efficiency air conditioning equipment. They are the ones where the roof geometry prevents heat from entering in the first place. Now here is the part that should make you genuinely frustrated. This knowledge did not disappear because it was wrong. It disappeared because two things happened simultaneously in the 1950s. Tract housing construction economics pushed builders toward the simplest, fastest, cheapest roof geometry. The low-slope gable roof with minimal overhangs that you see on virtually every post-war American suburb. And Carrier's residential air conditioning units became affordable and widely available at exactly the same moment. The industry's answer to the heat problem became sell people mechanical cooling equipment and the electricity to run it indefinitely for the life of the building. The passive solution, the roof shape that meant you needed far less mechanical cooling to begin with, got classified as old-fashioned, unnecessary, something for people who couldn't afford modern conveniences. What actually happened is that an industry discovered it could make far more money from your discomfort than from your comfort. A house that stays cool by geometry doesn't need a $4,000 air conditioning system replacement every 15 years. It doesn't generate $200 monthly cooling bills from May through September. It doesn't create a customer who is permanently dependent on equipment, electricity, and service contracts to make their own home livable. The good news is that these principles apply to retrofits and new construction alike. Deep overhang extensions can be added to existing roof structures. Ventilated roof assemblies can be retrofitted above existing ceiling insulation. Monitor-style ridge venting can be incorporated into roof replacements without changing the exterior roofline dramatically. None of these are exotic. None require proprietary materials. None depend on technology that needs to be replaced or serviced. They require geometry, airflow, and the understanding that the best cooling system ever designed is one that prevents heat from entering your living space in the first place. The architects who knew this didn't forget it. The industry just stopped teaching it when forgetting became more profitable. Subscribe to Lost Tech Vault. Next week, I'm covering the wall construction technique that kept houses in the American South genuinely comfortable before air conditioning existed. A method that costs less than standard modern framing and outperforms it thermally in hot climates by a margin that should embarrass the modern construction industry. See you next week.